Hello and welcome to another episode of Bubs' Dharma Lounge. This is a time and a place to discuss all things Dharma. Welcome. Hi and welcome. This is Bubsa Frank Jude, and it's a very different kind of episode. If you haven't already watched the previous episode where I introduced the first domain or the first establishment of mindfulness, you might want to check that out. This is going to be not a full practice, but a demonstration of how we could bring the teachings from the Satipatthana, which is the main discourse where the Buddha offered mindfulness meditation instructions, to our practice of asana, postures. In the Satipatthana, it begins with mindfulness of the breathing, and then the Buddha goes on to continue to expand to the whole body and all the different postures that the body can be in. And already we begin to see that what the posture you're in will affect breathing. And the breathing will affect your experience of the postures. So there's a mutual causal relationship. He goes on to talk about the activities of the body. And then after that, a more analytical analysis, that's kind of redundant, I guess, of the anatomical parts of the body. And then he goes on to talk about the elements. And then finally, the dissolution of the body. So again, this is not a full practice. I do often tell people that the main principle behind mindfulness yoga practice is that we are not here to make asanas of ourselves. Right? It's not about the form. It's not about the aesthetics. We're using the classical postures from Hatha-Yoga to practice mindfulness. But the mindfulness is what we're practicing, and it just happens to be in the various postures. So it's going to be very short. Again, it's just a sampler, but I hope that you can get something from this that you could bring into your own practice. Okay? Thanks. So take a seat, and I always encourage you to sit up on a blanket or a meditation cushion. The original meaning of the word asana was seat, and you need enough height under your buttocks to get your knees below the top of the pelvis. Right? And then that allows you to, when you sit in the front of the cushion or the blanket, it'll tilt your pelvis forward to maintain the integrity of the lumbar curve without having to use any major muscles in order to do that. Right? When we sit on the floor, if you really want to maintain the lumbar, then you're going to have to use those back muscles. In meditation, we want to just relax. You can rest your hands on your lap, draw the head of the arm bones back, close your eyes, and just settle your attention on the belly. When the mind wanders, that's a moment of mindfulness, so simply come back. And then from the belly, we can observe that some breaths are long, some breaths are short. As we sit, maybe the breathing grows a little more shallow, and then periodically a deeper breath comes in. We can zero in on one inhalation from the beginning to the end and see nothing but constant change. It's a flow. There's really no thingness to it, nothing to hold on to. So though we may call it a breath, sounding like it's a thing, with mindfulness we see that there's no such thing as a breath, there's just breathing. Our tendency is to essentialize the flow of experience into things. But when we slow down and really look, we see Nothing but processes, flows, the flux of experiencing. From the belly, we can expand the awareness down through the pelvis and legs, up to the crown of the head. And maybe you begin to notice that as the belly rises, you might experience movement elsewhere in the body. Perhaps the ribs expanding, or the chest or shoulders lifting a bit. So we're feeling the movement of breathing throughout the body. And then the Satipatthana says if we notice any tension in the body, we can train in calming the body. So if you notice, for instance, any tension in the buttocks, soften, relax them. If you're hunching the shoulders, you can relax them. If there's a subtle or not so subtle clenching of the jaw, you can relax the jaw muscle. Maybe allow even some space between the upper and lower lips. If there's any squinting of the eye muscles, you can soften. So we just calm the body. And then I invite you to bring your palms together in front of the heart. This is a gesture of appreciation, of gratitude, of remembrance that these teachings and practices have been shared by myriad teachers, past and present, known and unknown. At the same time, it reminds us that our practice is an offering to all those whose lives our life touches. Whatever peace, whatever joy, whatever insights we may cultivate through our practice cannot help but be shared with those in our life. With the next exhalation, you can release the hands, open the eyes. And then we're going to remove the cushion from under us and sit in a simple cross-leg position. You have your hands on your knees. And again, I like to begin with something that helps to hydrate the vertebra and just warm up the back muscles. It's called riding the camel. So as you exhale, we consciously draw the navel in and roll back to the tailbone and let the chin come to the sternum, the chest, flexing the spine. As you inhale, roll across the floor of the pelvis from the tailbone towards the pubic bone. Draw the shoulders back, lead with the heart, lift the chin, but don't drop the head all the way back. Keep the back of the neck soft, extending the spine. And then we'll just continue doing this, coordinating with the breath. So begin to move at the beginning of the breath. Try to time it so that you reach the end of the movement at the end of the breath. Inhaling into extension, exhaling into flexion. That's my dog Gomez. The next time you inhale, keep the extension and hinge forward from your hips into a cross-leg forward bend. If your head doesn't come all the way to the floor, once you've gone as far as you can release it to gravity. Let gravity traction out the back of the neck. Notice if your sit bones got light and what happens if you consciously press them into the floor. That may create some more space in the sacrum, the lumbar area. And as you breathe, notice where you feel the movement. See its effect on the back body. Then press down through the sit bones, draw the navel in, and it's as if you're lifting and stacking one vertebra at a time as you roll yourself up, right up to the base of the skull. And we want to take a moment to notice the most subtle vipaka, or the fruit, the effect of what we just did. You may notice a little effect on the quality of the breathing. And then cross your legs so the other leg is in front. Take your right hand out to the side, inhale the left arm up, And as you exhale, fold over to the right. If you can come onto your forearm, great. Otherwise, just go as far as it's comfortable. Notice that your left sit bone may have gotten light. It might have even pulled away from the floor. So press it back down so the stretch is more from grounding than grasping. And once you've found your range, see if you could bring that left arm as parallel to the floor as you can. And notice where you feel the stretch, how it feels when you're inhaling, how it feels when you're exhaling. What happens as we stay here a few breaths? What changes? As you press down through your sit bones, reach through the left fingertips, inhaling up to the ceiling, straightening up, and then exhale, float that hand down. It doesn't settle until the end of the out breath. And you may notice a difference from one side to the other. Right. Does that difference create an impulse in the mind to immediately want to go to the other side? Often that's true. So we yoke, the original meaning of the word yoga, we yoke that impulse. So we move from reacting to a more intentional response. Right. So there's a big difference as we, with mindfulness, take the left arm out to the side, inhale the right arm up, and then fold over to the left. Keep pressing that right sit bone down right from the beginning. Bring that right arm as parallel to the floor as you can, breathing here. And again, notice the sensations in the body. Notice where you feel the movement of the breath. What's it feel like in the right side body? What's it feel like in the left side body? And then inhale, reaching up to the ceiling. And exhale, floating that hand down. Again, noticing the vipaka. Echoing feelings in the body. Now take your right hand behind you and draw the shoulder back, left hand to the right knee. Inhale and kind of press down to the sit bone. See if you feel a little bit of a rebound, a lengthening. And as you exhale, take the left side forward and around. So even though we're twisting to the right, lead from the left side. You can start to use that left hand on the right knee to deepen the twist if you prefer, as you look over your right shoulder. So now we've changed the position of the torso. Notice where you feel the breathing. You might feel it in a different part of the abdomen or the torso than when you were facing forward. And so for instance, when I face forward, I feel my belly rising and falling. When I'm in the twist, as I inhale, I feel it more in my left ribs. And then as I exhale, release back to center. And again, notice those echoing sensations, that impulse maybe to want to go immediately to the other side. Yoke the impulse. See what happens as we stay here for a few breaths. Do the sensations fade? Do they stay the same? Do they get stronger? And then take the left hand behind you, draw the shoulder back, right hand to the left knee, inhale, exhale the right side forward and around, looking over your left shoulder. So when we twisted to the right, we noticed how posture affected where you experience breathing. Now as we breathe here, we can see how does the breathing affect the experience of the posture. I don't know about you, but it feels very different when I inhale in a twist from when I exhale. With the next exhalation, release back to center. And again, notice the vipaka. So the very fact that when we go into a posture, we see that the posture itself feels different, whether inhaling or exhaling. That's emptiness. That's the not self nature. There's no essence of what it is like. Right? Everything is contingent based upon other factors. So it's not anything esoteric. It's really our lived experience, but we tend not to be aware of it without mindfulness. So coming from here, come into table. On your hands and knees. Now, since we've already ridden the camel, we're just going to do one cat, one cow. So as you exhale, flex the spine. As you inhale, create the extension. Again, don't jut out through your chin. Keep the back of the neck long. Tuck your toes and exhale into downward facing dog. Press those heels to the back edge of the mat. Press the hands into the mat. Breathing here. Downward facing dog. Just a couple of breaths. And then notice the parts of your body in contact with the floor, right? The balls of your feet, maybe your whole feet if you've got more movement there. The palms. Do you feel the weight more in the little, like the pinky side of the palm or the thumb? What happens if you adjust? What happens if you balance it out? See the effects on the other parts of your body. And then walk your hands to your feet so you're in a standing forward bend. Take your hands just below your knees, inhale into an extended forward bend, and then take your hands to your hips and exhale the rest of the way up. Breathing into Tadasana, you're at the back end of your mat. Close your eyes and bring your awareness to your feet. Feel the soles of your feet connecting with the earth. And so we feel the earth element more in our feet and up through the legs. There's a lot more stillness there, a sense of heaviness, density, solidity. But as you work your way up the legs, you start to feel some movement. That's more of the air element as we move up into the torso and the shoulders. Now, if we were in a handstand, we'd be feeling the earth more in our arms, and our feet would be moving. So the elements, the principles of the body, are also contingent upon the posture as we breathe here. Now we also notice that you're swaying, so that means there's no such thing as balance, like a state to attain. There's just balancing. Just like there's no breath, there's just breathing. So press down to your left foot, turn the right foot out. 3 options. You can keep the ball of your foot on the floor, the right foot, and just bring the heel above the inner ankle. You could bring it up into your calf or up into your thigh. And then bring your palms together. Now, my standing foot is doing a lot of work. That's balancing. There's no balance here like a state. And for some of us, maybe the foot comes down and you go back up. This is balancing too. But whatever you're doing, you're balancing here. And then take the right knee forward and exhale back into Tadasana. Press down into that right foot. Turn the left foot out and practice on this side. Now you can keep your palms here. You can actually play and challenge the balancing. I live here in Tucson. We've got saguaros. And lots of times people will bring their arms up like this, like a saguaro. But you never see a saguaro so symmetrical. Right? So we start playing around, move those arms, and see how just by moving the arms, it affects the quality of your balancing and what you need to do. And bring your palms back together, bring the left knee forward, exhale into Tadasana. So you're at the back edge of your mat. We're going to do some walking meditation. The Buddha says we need to practice while sitting, standing, lying down, and walking. So you bring your hands to Anjali. And inhale, lift the foot, move it forward. Exhale, step onto that foot. As you do this, notice how your center of gravity shifts. And then at the front of the mat, come back to Tadasana. So we're going to do a typical, pretty classic standing posture. Turn to the side on your mat and take your legs about, your leg length apart, more or less. All right. Turn the right toes in, about 10 degrees, left toes out. Notice if you dropped into that hip. Right? So if that's happened, press a little bit more into the back leg so the pelvis is level side to side. Pelvis comes from Latin. It means basin. So we don't want to be spilling anything out. Okay. And then as you exhale, bend the left knee until it's right above the heel. Relax the arms. When your arms rise, you don't have to bring your shoulders up. Just let the arms come up and look out over the middle left finger, breathing here in Virabhadrasana 2. Now, the root of this virya is the third factor of awakening, of the 7 factors. Virya, it means energetic persistence. It's an energetic thing. We could be here for 10 minutes, and I guarantee it will not be the same, Warrior 2, as it is right now. So it's a misnomer to talk about holding a posture. We could be here for a while, but you have to persist in pressing down into the outer edge of that back foot. You have to persist in reaching out with the arms. There's no holding. It's constantly changing. Then see what happens when you externally rotate the forward arm. How does that affect the experience? And then deepen the bend of that left knee. So you're dropping a little deeper into that lunge. And take your right hand to the right leg for reverse warrior. As you breathe here, notice in changing the orientation of your torso, what changed in your legs, what changed in the quality of your breathing, maybe the quality of your mind. Is there a leaning? Leaning mind in Zen is like wanting to go to the next thing, wanting to get out of here. Is aversion or is it craving to release from here? As you exhale back to Warrior 2. Inhale, straighten that left leg. Turn the left toes in, right toes out. Again, notice if you drop into that forward hip, you want to press more into the back leg as you exhale and bend the right knee. Breathing here. Your drishti, your gaze, is out over the middle right finger. Notice the parts of the body that are in contact with the earth. Where there's more movement, the air element. Notice the temperature of your body. There might be some parts of your body that are warmer than others. That's the fire element. So you can do a whole practice just observing the change and flow of the elemental principles in the body. You can focus on the parts of your body that are in touch with the earth and what they're doing and all that. You can practice just observing how your breath keeps changing depending on the posture. As you externally rotate and then deepen the bend and come into reverse warrior on this side. Breathing here. Notice what's changed through the body. And as you exhale, come back to Warrior 2. Inhale, straighten the right leg, bring your feet parallel. And exhale, step the legs together, lower the arms. You're back in Tadasana. Notice the quality of the breath, quality of the mind. So I said, we're not doing a full practice. What I'd like to do now is to come down to lying on your back with your feet by your buttocks, about hip width apart. When you lay back, draw the shoulder blades flat on your back, turn your palms up, and notice the parts of your body in touch with the earth, right? The back of the skull, the upper thoracic part of the spine, the sacrum, the soles of your feet. What parts of your arms are in touch with the earth, and where's there some space, like behind the wrists, behind the neck, the lumbar. And then on an in-breath, press your feet into the floor so your whole pelvis rises to the ceiling. Keep pressing down. Maybe use your glutes to get up a little bit higher into the bent knee bridge. And if it's available, clasp your hands behind your back. So bent knee bridge is another great posture to get this concept of virya, right? You have to persist in pushing your feet into the floor, even though you're not going any higher in the pelvis. So how can we speak of holding a posture? There's no holding. There's a lot of vigorous action, even if there's no movement. So breathing here, notice how things change, breath by breath, moment by moment. And then on an exhalation, lower back down, and notice when the sacrum connects with the earth, the sense of groundedness after being elevated. And just notice the quality of the breathing. Take your arms out like the letter T. Bring your knees into your chest. You may want to turn and look at your left thumb, press the left shoulder blade into the floor, and roll onto your outer right hip. Just breathing there. As you release from here onto the sacrum, press the right shoulder blade into the floor. Maybe turn and look at your right thumb as you roll onto your outer left hip. So notice what happens when you consciously press the opposite shoulder blade, like the right shoulder blade's pressing into the floor as I take my knees to the left. What happens if I stop doing that? If there's no persistence of energetic effort here, what does that do in the body, in the quality of the mind? And as we release back onto the back, you might want to hug your arms around your shins, give yourself a big hug, maybe rock side to side over the sacrum. And then bring your feet to the floor by your buttocks. Check to see that you have a sense of a pretty straight line down the midline of your body, from the base of the skull to your tailbone. Once again, draw the shoulder blades flat on your back as you turn your palms up, and have your arms equidistant from the midline, at least 8 to 12 inches or so from your torso. And then when you straighten your legs, have your legs at least mat width apart, maybe go a little wider. Take a deep breath in. As you exhale, exhale through the pursed lips. Surrender the full weight and volume of the body to gravity. Notice the belly rising and falling. Is the breath shallow or deep, smooth or rough, long or short? Is the length of the in-breath the same as the out-breath, or is it longer or shorter? Is there any gap between the out-breath and the in-breath? If so, is it always the same length? So mindfulness is the foundation, and then the second factor of awakening is the Dhammavicharya, the investigation of phenomena. So you start to really look at the process of breathing. Where else in the body do we feel any movement associated with breathing when we're lying down? Bring your awareness to the back body. Trace it from the back of the skull down, noticing the parts of the body that are in direct contact with the earth, the parts of the body that are not in contact with the earth. Without doing the full practice of the decomposition of the body, let us just remember that the name of this posture does translate as corpse. So it's not simply a relaxation posture, it's reminding us of the final state of the body. As we lie here, bring awareness to the crown of your head and the hair on your head. If any thoughts come up, if there's a sense of grasping or aversion, become aware of that as we bring the awareness to the eyes. And then the ears. The nose. Aware of the hands. Feet. Aware of the heart. The lungs. The liver. The bowels. Small intestine, large intestine, colon, rectum. The feces. The kidneys. The bladder. Urine. Blood. Fatty tissue. Mucus. Earwax. Fingernails, toenails. The skeleton lying here. The bony structure. Back to just feeling once again the belly rising and falling. After the next exhalation, as you inhale, sweep the arms overhead, press down through your feet, full body stretch. Exhale, release the stretch, slide your feet in towards your buttocks, turn onto the right side and rest in a fetal position. Give yourself a moment to feel what it's like to lie here, supported and nourished by the earth, as we use the earth to rise up. So press down into the floor, come up, and establish your seat once again on the meditation cushion. Rest your hands on your lap, close the eyes, remembering that sati is related to sarati, remembering. What did it feel like when we first sat down? Can you remember? Can you see what, if anything, has changed? Physically, energetically, mentally. Notice the quality of the breathing, quality of the mind. Body, speech, and mind in perfect oneness. I send my heart along with the sound of the bell. May all of us who hear it awaken from forgetfulness and realize our true home in the here, the now. As we begin, I invite you to bring your palms together in front of your heart so that we can dedicate and offer whatever merit we may generate through our study and practice together to all sentient beings throughout the world equally. May our thoughts, words, and deeds bring benefit to the world. Om Ah Hum. Om Ah Hum. Om Ah Hum. So that's just a real brief taste. If you have my book, or if you want to get my book, you'll see that there's a lot more that we can add into working with the first domain. We did get a chance to sit, stand, walk, and lie down. Those are the 4 postures that the Buddha specifically enumerates. But then he does go on to say, however the body is disposed. Right, so whatever posture. So that lends us to the myriad postures that we can practice in Hatha-Yoga. As I said, the elements that make up the body. The Buddha at his time talked about the 5 great elements that we find in Ayurveda, for instance, if you're familiar with that: earth, water, fire, air, and space. As a contemporary practitioner, sometimes I actually have my students meditate on the 22 elements that make up most of the body, right? From hydrogen, oxygen, carbon, all the way up to zinc and a couple other manganese, things like that. And then again, with established practitioners, the final part of the first domain is a contemplation of the body decomposing. But I would never do that with a drop-in yoga class. Right? So again, hopefully this offers a little insight into how we can practice Satipatthana in our postural practice, and I wish you well. Thank you. So I hope that you find this little experimental episode of mine of benefit. If you do, and you haven't subscribed, please do. Subscriptions really help to disseminate this podcast to more people. Also, share it with others. Even one person will be really great. Stay well, be well. I hope to see you again at Bubs' Dharma Lounge.